Where'd you get those shoes?
I bought them. Here's my receipt.
Hands behind your back, you're under arrest.
Joshua Ortega stood at a bus stop in the Buckhead shopping district on a Saturday afternoon in October, holding a white shopping bag with rope handles and feeling, for the first time in 8 months, like all the work had finally been worth it. He was 17 years old, 3 days from his 18th birthday. The bag in his hand held a pair of limited edition sneakers that had been released in quantities so small that only a few hundred pairs existed in his size anywhere in the country. And they were his. Legitimately, completely, undeniably his. He had worked for them. Every weekend at the grocery store stocking shelves. Every extra shift over school breaks. Every dollar saved and every temptation resisted. His parents had made him a deal at the start of his senior year: maintain AB average, keep the job, save what he could, and they would cover the rest. Joshua had held up his end. His grades were solid. His job was intact. His savings account had grown, dollar by dollar, to $2,400. His parents had deposited the remaining $2,600, $5,000. The receipt in his hand confirmed every cent of it. He sent his parents a photo of the bag with a simple caption, "Got them. Thank you so much." Then he sat down at the bus stop, smiled to himself, and waited for the bus home. He had no idea that a woman sitting 10 feet away had already decided he was a criminal. Before we go any further, if you believe a teenager who worked 8 months for his birthday gift should be able to sit at a bus stop without being handcuffed for it, hit subscribe right now. Drop a comment and tell me where you are watching from. And stay with me, because what happens next and who steps in to fight back is the part that changes everything. Jennifer Hayes was 46 years old. She had been sitting at that same bus stop for 30 minutes, and she had been in a bad mood for most of it. An hour earlier, she had walked into the boutique Joshua had just left, looking for a birthday gift for her own son. She had found a pair he would have loved. She had looked at the price tag, $4,200. She had stood there doing the math in her head, had briefly considered the credit card, and had walked out empty-handed and quietly furious. Now she was sitting at the bus stop when Joshua came out of the same store with a bag in his hand and a smile on his face. And something in Jennifer's mind, something shaped not by evidence, but by years of accumulated assumption, made an immediate calculation. She looked at his clothes. Plain black t-shirt, dark jeans, old sneakers worn down at the heel. She looked at the bag. She thought, there is no way he bought that. She did not consider that he might have saved for months. She did not consider that his parents might have helped. She did not consider the receipt she could see folded in his hand. She just reached for her phone and dialed 911. There's a black teenager at the bus stop outside Soul Haven Boutique on Peachtree Road. He just walked out with stolen sneakers worth thousands of dollars. I know he stole them. There's no way he could afford them. Officer Gary Taylor was 38 years old, 9 years on the Atlanta Police Department. He was 3 blocks away finishing a traffic stop when the call came through. He activated his lights and pulled up to the bus stop at 2:17 p.m., less than 6 minutes after Jennifer's call. What Jennifer Hayes didn't know, what she couldn't have known because it was buried in an internal personnel file that no one had ever acted on, was that Taylor had been the subject of 6 formal complaints from Black and Latino residents. All 6 described the same behavior: stops without cause, refusal to verify information, assumptions of guilt based on appearance. All 6 had been investigated internally. All 6 had been dismissed with verbal warnings. The data told an even clearer story. Over the previous 2 years, Taylor had conducted 47 stops that resulted in no citations and no arrests. Of those 47 stops, 43 involved Black or Latino individuals. The Buckhead area where Taylor worked was 68% white. For his stops to show a 91% minority rate was statistically nearly impossible without intentional targeting. The pattern had been in his file for years, and not one supervisor had done a single thing to stop it. But here is what neither Jennifer Hayes nor Officer Taylor knew when that patrol car pulled up to the bus stop. The man who had sold Joshua those sneakers 23 minutes earlier was still inside that boutique finishing his shift, and he was about to look out the window. Taylor got out of his patrol car. His hand moved instinctively near his service weapon as he walked toward the bench. He looked at Joshua and said, "Where'd you get those shoes?" Joshua looked up. He said he had just bought them. He reached into the bag and extended the receipt toward Taylor. Before Taylor could respond, Jennifer Hayes stood up from the bench and her voice rang out across the bus stop loud enough for everyone to hear. "Jennifer, he couldn't afford those. He stole them. Those sneakers cost thousands of dollars." Taylor turned and looked at her. He nodded. He turned back to Joshua, ignoring the receipt still extended in Joshua's hand. "Joshua, I saved for 8 months. Please, just look at the receipt." "Taylor, hands behind your back. You're under arrest." "Joshua, I have proof. Just call the store. They'll confirm it." Taylor grabbed his arm, spun him around, and clicked the handcuffs on. The shopping bag fell to the ground. Taylor kicked it aside like it was evidence. A crowd began to gather. Phones came out. People filmed. Jennifer Hayes stood to the side, arms crossed, a satisfied expression on her face. Inside Soul Haven Boutique, employee Cordell Lopez was preparing to clock out when he heard raised voices. He walked to the window and his stomach dropped. He recognized the teenager immediately. He didn't hesitate. Cordell grabbed his jacket, pushed through the glass doors without clocking out, and ran toward the bus stop. "Cordell, what are you doing? That boy didn't steal anything. I sold him those shoes less than 30 minutes ago. He has his receipt. Did you even look at it?" "Taylor, mind your business. Step back or you're interfering with a police investigation." Cordell pulled out his phone and started recording. "I work in that store right there. I processed his payment myself. He paid in full with a debit card. Everything was legitimate." Taylor stepped toward him, grabbed his phone, deleted the video, and shoved the phone back into Cordell's chest. Cordell looked Taylor directly in the eye. His voice came out calm and deliberate. "This store is owned by Michael Barnes. You know that name? He's taken down APD officers before. Every camera in and outside this store is recording right now. And when Mr. Barnes sees this footage, you're going to wish you had just looked at that receipt." Taylor had the receipt in front of him. He had a store employee confirming the purchase. He had a crowd of witnesses recording. At what point do you think his career was over? Drop your answer in the comments right now. And now here is the part that Jennifer Hayes and Gary Taylor could not have prepared for. Because Michael Barnes was not just any store owner. And when Cordell Lopez called him that evening and sent him the footage, what Barnes said next took the story from a bus stop in Buckhead to a federal courtroom. Michael Barnes was a self-made millionaire who owned 5 businesses across Atlanta, including Soul Haven. He was also a civil rights advocate who had successfully sued the Atlanta Police Department twice in the previous 7 years. Both lawsuits had resulted in officer terminations and settlements in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. He had built his businesses specifically so he would have the resources to fight back against exactly what had just happened to Joshua Ortega. He had been racially profiled himself when he was younger. He had promised himself that once he had the power, he would use it. Barnes watched the surveillance footage 3 times that evening. The interior camera showed Joshua walking in, trying on the sneakers, paying with his debit card, receiving the receipt, and leaving with the bag. The transaction was documented to the second. The exterior camera showed Taylor arriving, ignoring the receipt, handcuffing Joshua while Jennifer Hayes stood in the background with a smirk and then deleting Cordell's phone video. Barnes called his attorney, David Chin. "Barnes, David, I'm sending you footage. This is a federal lawsuit. Racial profiling, false arrest, false police report. The whole package." Chin called back 20 minutes later. "This is textbook." The officer made zero attempt to verify. The woman had no evidence. "We go after both of them." The lawsuits were filed within 2 weeks, and the Atlanta Police Department opened an internal investigation into Officer Gary Taylor. What they found matched exactly what the complaints had been saying for 9 years. 47 stops with no outcome. 91% minority rate in a 68% white area. 6 dismissed complaints. A pattern that should have ended Taylor's career years before Joshua ever sat down at that bus stop. 3 weeks after the incident, Officer Gary Taylor was terminated from the Atlanta Police Department. 9 years of service. 38 years old. His career was over. Jennifer Hayes was arrested and charged with filing a false police report. Her attorney told her the evidence was so overwhelming that fighting it would only make things worse. She pleaded guilty, received 6 months probation, and now carried a permanent criminal record. But the criminal charges were just the beginning. The civil trial took place 5 months after the incident. The jury heard the 911 recording, Jennifer's own voice telling the dispatcher that Joshua had stolen the sneakers based on nothing more than the way he was dressed. They heard from Cordell Lopez, who confirmed every detail of the legitimate transaction. They reviewed the security footage. They heard from neighbors in Jennifer's previous neighborhood, who described a documented pattern of calling police on Black and Latino people for imaginary violations. A Black FedEx driver in uniform. A Black family with a permit in a public park. A Latino maintenance worker employed by her own apartment complex. The jury also heard something else. That Jennifer Hayes had been in Soul Haven 1 hour before Joshua. That she had found a pair of sneakers for her own son. That she had looked at the price and walked out empty-handed. She hadn't called the police because she thought Joshua stole the sneakers. She had called because she couldn't afford them. And she had decided, in that moment of jealousy and bias, that neither should he. The jury returned a verdict in Joshua's favor. Jennifer Hayes was ordered to pay $280,000 in damages. Her savings were depleted by legal fees. The judgment forced her into bankruptcy within 8 months. She lost her home to foreclosure and moved out of state. $280,000. Bankruptcy. Foreclosure. A permanent criminal record. And Officer Taylor working warehouse night shifts, unable to find another law enforcement job. Do you think that is justice? Or do you think it should have gone further? Drop your answer below. The Atlanta Police Department, under public pressure and the threat of federal oversight, implemented comprehensive reforms. Officers were now required to verify receipts and confirm with store management before making any arrest based on a third-party accusation. Stop data was published quarterly with demographic analysis. Officers whose stop patterns deviated more than 15% from the area's demographic makeup were automatically flagged for review. The reforms were credited with reducing racially disparate stops in the Buckhead district by 63% over the following 3 years. Michael Barnes used Joshua's case in community forums, legislative meetings, and civil rights advocacy sessions across Georgia. His work contributed to the passage of a statewide Receipt Verification Act in 2023, which extended the APD's new protocols to every law enforcement agency in the state. 1 teenager, 1 receipt, 1 store owner who refused to look the other way, and a law that now protects every person in the state of Georgia who walks out of a store with something they earned. Let me tell you what Joshua Ortega's story is really about. It is not about a pair of sneakers. It is not about one woman's phone call or one officer's 9-year pattern. Those things matter, but they're the surface. The deeper story is this. Joshua did everything right. He worked. He saved. He kept his grades up. He made a deal with his parents and he honored it. He walked into a store with legitimate money and walked out with a legitimate receipt. He sat down at a bus stop and minded his business. And in the mind of a woman sitting 10 feet away, not one of those facts registered. What registered was a black teenager with an expensive bag from a store she couldn't afford. And the conclusion she reached instantly, without evidence, without hesitation, was theft. That assumption is not new. It lives in stores where employees follow black customers through the aisles. In parking lots where security watches a black man walk to his own car. In bus stops in Buckhead where a woman reaches for her phone before a teenager has even had a chance to smile at his own birthday present. Joshua Ortega went to college on that settlement money. He graduated high school with a 3.6 GPA and enrolled at Georgia State University to study business administration. He became a vocal advocate for criminal justice reform, speaking at high schools across Atlanta about what happened to him and about the rights every young person carries into every interaction with law enforcement. He never received an apology from Jennifer Hayes or Gary Taylor. But he received something they could not take from him, the knowledge that he fought back, that he won, and that the laws in his state are different today because he refused to let a receipt get kicked to the ground without consequence. If this story hit you the way it should, hit that like button and share this video. Share it with every young person you know who has ever been followed in a store, questioned in a parking lot, or treated like a suspect for the crime of buying something they earned. Drop a comment. Have you or someone you know ever experienced shopping while black? And do you think $280,000 was enough for what Jennifer Hayes did to Joshua's birthday? Tell me below. Subscribe and turn on notifications. Every week we bring you the stories where someone fought back and changed something. We don't let these stories disappear. We'll see you in the next one. Stay sharp out there, and remember, always keep your receipt. Know your rights. And never let anyone's assumption cost you what you earned.